This is a sports catastrophe production. Hey there, how there, ho there, it's Jeff Carter. I'm going to welcome you to another sports catastrophe on this day. And on this day, May the 5th, 1904, Cy Young pitched the first modern perfect game in the major leagues since the formation in 1901. 10,000 fans packed themselves into the Huntington Avenue grounds to see Cy Young, who was a legend, who has seen his better days, but basically he shocked the world, all that. Rube Waddell, who was a good pitcher for the Philadelphia A's, actually defeated Cy Young a couple of times and taunted Young to face him again for the third time. But 3 days later, Cy Young shocked Waddell and himself by pitching a perfect game. This was the first in the modern era. Two other pitchers did before this May 5th, 1904 game. However, it occurred in 1880, and there were different rules. The pitcher's box was 45 feet from home plate. Well, the front edge is 45 from home plate, and the modern release point is at 55. Walks required 8 balls, and pitchers had to throw side-armed. But those rules were changed in 1893. So the Boston Americans, aka Red Sox, would play the Philadelphia A's because of the matchup between Cy Young and Rube Waddell. All that. Waddell was not too happy with Cy Young, but basically Boston got their revenge, winning the game 3-0 and all that. By the 6th inning, teammates knew that he was throwing a no-hitter, so they didn't talk to him. Cy Young retired Rube Waddell to end the perfect game. 27 up, 27 down. And he basically taunted Waddell after retiring him to end the game. The game was 1 hour and 23 minutes, which was amazing because, honestly. So anyway, Young would keep a scoreless innings streak alive at 45, which is pretty good and all that. Which had the record for most scoreless innings pitched until, I believe, Don Drysdale. Anyway, Young still has the major league record for hitless streak. Most consecutive innings pitched without a hit, 25 innings, which is weird. It's like, how come he only has the one no-hitter? I guess because he only could pitch so much. Yeah. So Cy Young beat Rube Waddell. Philly had Topsy Hartzell, who was a decent left fielder, Denny Hoffman, Ole Pickering, Harry Davis, Live Cross Sox Saybold, another legend, Danny Murphy, Monty Cross, Ozzie Stricken Ghost, and Rube Waddell being hitters. Boston counted Patsy Doherty, who I believe scored the first hit in World Series history in 1903, Jimmy Collins, Chick Stahl, Buck Freeman, Freddie Parent, Kenny LaChance, Hope Ferris, Lou Krieger, and Cy Young. So this would be the first of many perfect games in Major League history. Not too many, though. Other no-hitters other perfections were 1908, Addie Joss in the last game of the season for the Indians against the White Sox, and it was a pennant chase. But in the end, the White Sox did win the pennant. The 1908 pennant, and faced the Cubs in the World Series. Charlie Robertson in 1922 for the White Sox. Then it took 34 freaking years until another perfect game, and this was in the World Series. Don Larson, in his famous one in 1956. Larson wasn't really the best pitcher around, but he was good when it counted the most, and shocked everyone by getting a perfect game in the World Series against the Brooklyn Dodgers. Jim Bunning in 1964 against the Mets. Well, the Mets were a sad sack and all that when he pitched for the Phillies. Sandy Koufax, 1965 against the Cubs. In his fourth no-hitter. Catfish Hunter in 1968, the first year that the A's were in Oakland. They were once in Philly, then in Kansas City, now in Oakland. Catfish Hunter. Len Barker, 1981 for the Indians against my Toronto Blue Jays, but the Blue Jays were kind of crappy at that time. Mike Witt, 1984 for the Angels against the Rangers. I referenced this yesterday I referenced this May 1st on this day thing about pitching at Arlington Stadium. Tom Browning pitched a perfect game for the Reds in 1988. That lasted 80 minutes or something like that. Dennis Martinez, 1991, Montreal, LA. There's a lot to know about this whole thing. Dennis Martinez being the first Latino pitcher to throw a perfect game. Montreal was trouble. Their offense sucked. They didn't score a run until the 7th inning of the 3rd game of the series against the Dodgers. So, yeah, it took 26 innings before they finally scored a run in that series against the Dodgers. It was tight. It was a 2-0 game, and Dennis Martinez got saved by a few plays by Larry Walker, who was playing at first base that day. Kenny Rogers, 1994 for the Texas Rangers against California, a.k.a. the LA Angels. So basically, yeah, he did his. David Wells, 98 against the Twins for the Yankees. On Beanie Baby Day, David Cohn, May 18th, 1999. No, sorry, July 18th, 1999. He pitched the perfect game against the Expos in Italy, which was amazing because Don Larson and Yogi Berra were doing the ceremony of first pitch because it was Yogi Berra Day. Berra finally went back to Yankee Stadium after so many years away from the team. This was David Cohn's perfect game was opposite me watching a game in real life in Toronto as the Jays would play the Braves and beat the Braves. Randy Johnson's perfect game in 2004 for the Diamondbacks against the Braves, being the oldest to throw a perfect game. Mark Burley's perfect game in 2009 against the Rays. I remember there was a Blue Jay game on the same day, the same afternoon and all that. Dallas Braden on Mother's Day 2010 against the Rays as a member of Oakland. Roy Halladay in June 2010, not in the playoffs. That's what people think. That was a no-hitter, but June 2010. Consequently, on game one of the Stanley Cup Finals when the Flyers took on the Blackhawks, all that, but Halladay threw a perfect game for the Phillies against the Marlins. Philip Humber throwing a perfect game for the White Sox in 2011. Philip Humber was just a terrible pitcher. Matt Cain pitched a perfect game for the Giants, I think 2012? Or something like that. I think it was 2011. Yeah, I think it was 2012. And then Felix Hernandez was 2013 with a perfect game for the Mariners. And that's the last perfect game ever thrown, which is weird. Because it's we've gone through 8 years without a perfect game. That's the longest drought in, the last time there was more than 8 years between a perfect game was the gap between Catfish Hunter in 68 and Len Barker in 81. So, yeah, it's the longest drought with a perfect game in 4 decades. Shows you a lot, eh? So anyway, yeah, perfect games are hard to come by. It's hard to do in video games, especially in video games, because the computer will screw you over. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. Adu.